On today's episode of Locked on Wild, reinforcements have finally arrived.
Hey, this is Matt Boldy, and you're listening to Locked on Wild.
You're Locked on Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Locked on Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team each and every day, and we thank you for making Locked on Wild your first listen each and every day as well. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. Today's episode of Locked on Wild is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. On today's episode of Locked on Wild, we discuss the big news from today. Kirill Kaprizov and Eriksson Ek are back. We'll take a look at what that does for the lineup. We will talk about the last few games of the season for Marc-Andre Fleury and his storied career, and we'll also get you set for tonight's game against the San Jose Sharks. My name is Seth Toupal, host of Locked on Wild, and as we mentioned, officially official from Minnesota Wild PR just a few minutes ago. The Minnesota Wild have activated forward Eriksson Ek from injured reserve and forward Kirill Kaprizov from long-term injured reserve and reassigned forwards Brendan Gaunce and Devin Shore to the Iowa Wild. So the moment we have been waiting for since the end of January, when Kirill Kaprizov had surgery and it was announced that he was going to miss a substantial amount of time, week to week. We have been wondering for months as to when we were finally going to see Kirill Kaprizov get on the ice. That is tonight. That happens tonight. Before we look at what this does for the lineup, I do want to raise the big question. Obviously, the key to this is going to be what version of Kirill Kaprizov we get. If he is close to 100%, if you get 80, 90 to 90% of real Kirill Kaprizov, that's a darn good player. And that is going to be enough to propel to the top of this Minnesota Wild lineup to get some goals back on the board. If he is 60, 70%, then that is where you run into some of the issues that we saw the last time Kaprizov came back from injury. And he just clearly was not the same player and was not able to help propel the Wild offensively. Also was injured in the postseason as well. So this is all about what version of Kirill Kaprizov we get now that he is back in the lineup. And by all accounts, that practice today looked good. He looks like himself. And so I'm sure that with the amount of time that he has had to rest after the surgery, it's probably going to take him a little while to get back into a hockey groove, but I don't think there are going to be any real limitations. Now, you might see if the Wilds do what they are supposed to do tonight against the San Jose Sharks, you may see him play sporadically as the game unfolds. You maybe try to take a couple of minutes off of his numbers, but beyond that, these are two players that give you 100% full throttle every time they are on the ice. And so you're going to get everything that they have on any given night. So my guess is that there aren't going to be a ton of restrictions as far as what they do in the lineup. Now, on the Eriksson Ek side of things, obviously with Ek, there have been, there have been some rumblings as to what exactly the injury was. I heard Michael Russo on with KFan about a week ago talking about, there were a lot of different things that Eriksson Ek was dealing with when this latest injury happened. And hopefully he has had the requisite amount of time to be able to heal up as much as he can. And you now have a couple of players that you put into the lineup that have had a little rest, which I think can help them out, and it can help the team out as well. I want to get to the most exciting part of this entire situation is just what this does for the lineup, what this does for deepening this Minnesota Wild lineup. Jesse Pierce, who was at practice earlier today, put this out as far as hypothetical line combinations for the Minnesota Wild to utilize. Obviously, we're probably going to see a reunion of Kaprizov, Rossi, and Zuccarello. Would not be surprised if we see that, get the familiarity going, and play off of Rossi getting himself kind of back on track offensively lately. Could see Marcus Foligno, Joel Eriksson Ek, and Matt Boldy. Foligno and Boldy have had some good chemistry over the last few games, and it's a little different look for that second line with not having Marcus Johansson in that spot. We've just become so accustomed to seeing him in that spot. But Marcus Foligno has been playing some really good hockey over the last several weeks. And so you're riding the hot hand in that spot. Third line of Marcus Johansson, Freddie Gaudreau, and Gustav Nyquist. Fourth line of Yakov Trenyan, Ryan Hartman, and Brazo, Justin Brazo for the Wild on that fourth line. So a couple things. Number one, this is a lineup that features NHL players in every spot. Kudos to Devin Shore and Brendan Gaunce for the fill-in work that they have done this year. But you have an actual first line through fourth line is actual NHL players. And you've got Vinny Hinostroza as your 13th forward who can slot in, has played up and down the lineup, and is going to give you hard work and hustle when he's out there on the ice. So if anybody is not pulling their weight now that the lines have shaken up, and here's the other part of this to piggyback off of that, is that now there is no, well, it doesn't matter what I do because I'm playing better than this, and this. Vinny Hinostroza should be in the lineup for the Minnesota Wild based off of how he has played lately. So the fact that he potentially is not in the lineup right now, do not be surprised if he slots in if somebody starts to struggle or scuffle or continues to not go 100% when they're out there on the ice. So this serves as kind of the final wake-up call for everybody that's out there. Now, on one side of the coin, should have been at this point long ago, but with Kaprizov and Eriksson Ek out of the lineup, you had a couple of AHL guys in the lineup. So there wasn't a ton of worry, I don't think, about players hitting that line and being scratched. Well, now there is, because those two are back, and anybody that's not pulling their weight could likely end up riding the pine here down the stretch and into the postseason. You've got players who, with the exception of Marcus Foligno, you've got players in spots that they should be as well in this type of a lineup. You've got Marcus Johansson, Gustav Nyquist, Freddie Gaudreau, Yakov Trenyan, Ryan Hartman, Justin Brazo / Vinny Hinostroza. Those are all bottom six players. They're actually in bottom six spots. So it's a deeper lineup, but it is a lineup that is full of players that are actual NHLers. So it's, considering what they have, it looks pretty good. You're not going to, just based off of where they're at with the salary cap, you're not going to make any real moves as far as call-ups go, because you really can't afford to until you hit the postseason, when you can then bring up a handful of guys to be kind of the reserves for the postseason. But until that point, this is what you have. This is the group that you are going to go to war with on a nightly basis. But man alive, it's nice to see the line combinations and have Kirill Kaprizov be in there as opposed to having to continually wonder about his status. And I'm sure Bill Guerin and John Hines are happy that they don't have to answer those questions anymore, because it's been it's been a long time. So it's kind of got me excited again. It's kind of got me giving me a little bit of that life. And you want to talk about treading water. The Minnesota Wild, in games that Kirill Kaprizov did not play this year, 19, 16, and 3. So now it's time to get everybody back in rhythm and get this thing back on track. We are going to now talk about Marc-Andre Fleury, because it was also announced today. We knew yesterday that this was likely the route that the Wild were going to go, but it was announced today. Marc-Andre Fleury will be starting, and with the final 4 games of the season here, we are nearing the end of the road for the sure-to-be Hall of Fame goalie. So we're going to take a little bit of a look back on Marc-Andre Fleury's Minnesota Wild career and his career in general as we continue today's episode of Locked on Wild after this. Today's episode of Locked on Wild is brought to you by Monarch Money. Have you ever checked your bank account and wondered, where'd all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it is easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it is a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. For instance, much like trimming a hedge in front of your house, Monarch Money can help you take a look at things that you're paying for that you maybe aren't using. Subscriptions, for instance, and can help you get those eliminated from your monthly transactions so that money just goes straight into your pocket. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONNHL for 50% off your first year. Welcome back to today's episode of Locked on Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked on Wild your first listen each and every day. We will have a postcast for you here tonight, and we'll likely set the scene for what will be basically, it'll be an elimination game for the Calgary Flames if they lose it on Friday. If the Minnesota Wild lose that game, they have a 4-point lead as of right now before the San Jose game. So still on top, but it feels like if the Flames lose that game, they're going to be done. So we'll set the tone for that game for you here throughout the rest of the week. And obviously we'll be keeping a close eye on Kirill Kaprizov and Joel Eriksson Ek in that game, who, by the way, before the break, I completely forgot to mention the most important part that both Kirill Kaprizov and Joel Eriksson Ek are going to help with is the special teams, the power play, which has been floundering most of the season without Kirill Kaprizov. Now we get a chance to maybe see that thing go on a little bit of a run, hopefully. I guess we'll have to wait and see. And you add Joel Eriksson Ek back in on a penalty kill that is starting to make some solid strides. So good depth add for the penalty kill unit. And of course you get your you get the train operator back for the power play as well. So those will be areas to keep an eye on in this matchup tonight and throughout the rest of the season as well. So Marc-Andre Fleury getting the start this evening. And with how the schedule is played out, with the fact that Philip Gustafsson has been just the guy, the Wild have needed him every single one of these games that he has been in, there have been few and far in between as far as starts go for Marc-Andre Fleury here down the stretch. We talked about it in the live show with Denny on Monday night. We talked about it in the episode on Monday with Alex. He started 4 games since the Four Nations face-off, since the break. In his last start was against the Vegas Golden Knights, and that was on March 25th. It's been Gus every single game for the most part that the Minnesota Wild have played. So you're giving Fleury an opportunity against a team in the Sharks who is just, they're pretty putrid, to be honest. So you're giving him kind of a cushion because you are going to definitely need him against Vancouver. You give Gus an opportunity to just kick his feet up and go into that game against Calgary fully rested. Then you give Fleury another opportunity against the Vancouver Canucks on Saturday. And that's probably it, unless you clinch before that Tuesday game against the Anaheim Ducks, in which if the playoffs are clinched, maybe you go Gustafsson for a period just to keep him in routine, and then go to Fleury after that. We'll have to see how it plays out. But the reason I bring this up, we're getting down to the last couple of games for a player who is a surefire Hall of Famer, is going to be, I'm sure, a first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the more decorated goalies in the history of the NHL, and a goalie who this year, in a far diminished role, has been pretty darn good for the Minnesota Wild. You take out 2 of his last 3 starts. The game against Utah on February 27th was a 6-1 loss. Gave up 4 goals against Vegas. He had not given up more than 3 goals outside of those 2 starts since January 25th. Now, some of that is me just trying to make it sound like way bigger than it is. Fleury has only started since January 25th. He has only started 6 games. So, but you look at what he has put in for pretty much the rest of the season. Absolutely was sensational against the Colorado Avalanche on January 20th. He shut out the Montreal Canadiens, who are in a playoff spot right now and likely to keep it based off of how the standings in the Eastern Conference are going. He was able to outduel the top team in the Eastern Conference, the Washington Capitals, for a win back in January. So my point being is that Fleury still has plenty left in the tank, but he's doing something that a lot of athletes don't get the chance to do. A lot of athletes, I would say an overwhelming majority of athletes, don't get the chance to do, which is to go out on his terms. Fleury he said before the season started, he was adamant that this was going to be his final year as a goalie. This is going to be the final year that he plays. He has not wavered from that. He has held steadfast to that. There hasn't been a lot of fanfare behind it, but Fleury has won some big games for the Minnesota Wild this season, and I'm glad that the opportunity is going to present itself for him to get a start at home and to play out all the flashy saves and the highlight reel saves and the flips and the spins, hugging the post when a shot goes off the post. I'm glad that the Wild are giving at least one final opportunity at home for Minnesota Wild fans to show their appreciation for, again, surefire Hall of Famer. And I have to remind myself of this. I've had to this season and will have to over these last few games, how rare it is to get a chance to see one of the greatest to do it at their position on your hometown team. And it is something that has been it's been a treat. It's been great to see Marc-Andre Fleury and how much his teammates revere him, how much they appreciate having him in the locker room, and how big of a piece he is for a team that has been through quite a bit this season. Having a guy like Marc-Andre Fleury who likes to keep things light, but has also seen a lot himself and can relate some of his experiences to what the team is currently dealing with. That goes well above his current salary in terms of value. So I'm really glad that we've had a chance to see him over the last few years. And I don't think it's a coincidence that it was also announced today that the Minnesota Wild's surefire Hall of Fame goalie is the team's nominee for the Bill Masterton Memorial Trophy. And for those that don't know what the Bill Masterton Trophy is, it's presented annually to the player who best exemplifies the qualities of perseverance, sportsmanship, and dedication to hockey. Who better to win it this year in his final season in the league than Marc-Andre Fleury? Universally regarded as one of the best teammates in the league and just such an ambassador for the game. I could think of no better way for this to go than for him to end up winning it. The Wild have had plenty of nominees, but they've just had one winner. That was Josh Harding, who won it back in 2013. Other than that, Matt Dumba was a finalist back in 2021. And actually, there have been two players, just reading the release here. Devin Dubnyk also won the Bill Masterton Memorial Trophy back in 2015. So Harding in 2013, Dubnyk in 2015, and then Matt Dumba was a finalist in 2021. Would love nothing more than to see a winner this year in Marc-Andre Fleury in his final year in the league. So we'll see if he gets it, but mainly just going to be cheering Fleury on here tonight and hoping to see a lot of what exemplifies the Marc-Andre Fleury experience, which is dazzling saves, some love for the post, and just a lot of fun out there on the ice. Now, the Minnesota Wild hopefully will be having plenty of fun here tonight because their opponent, very young and in the midst of a bit of a skid. So we'll talk about the San Jose Sharks heading into tonight's matchup against the Minnesota Wild and some numbers to keep an eye on. That's on the way as we finish today's episode of Locked On Wild after this. Today's episode of Locked On Wild is brought to you by Indeed. You just realized that your business needed to hire somebody yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Well, it's easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other sites. Indeed's sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. I was on the job hunt all summer, and I can speak to these sponsored posts that you see. You type in a particular profession, trying to find the ideal fits for you, the job seeker, and there were a lot of appealing sponsored posts at the top that catch your eye right away. And you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need. Welcome back to today's episode of Locked On Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. Make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube if you have not already, so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. The San Jose Sharks are the worst team in the league since January 1st, 2025 specifically, but You can take that for pretty much the entirety of the season as well. 9, 24, and 4. And just looking into all of the other numbers, and we'll kind of narrowcast it as well. They are scoring 2.46 goals per game in that span. The Minnesota Wild, by the way, 24th in that span, 19, 18, and 3. Both teams scoring basically the same amount of goals. Wild are at 2.43 per game. Sharks at 2.46. The Minnesota Wild are allowing 2.98 goals per game. The Sharks 3.95. Power plays, basically a wash as well. 21.9% for the Wild, 20% for the Sharks, 74.8 on the penalty kill. The Sharks are at 68.9%. But let's try to kind of hone in on this even a little bit more. The Sharks made a few moves at the deadline to try to bolster themselves. And in 13 games since the trade deadline on March 7th, they are 3-9-1, scoring 2.15 goals per game, giving up 3.92. Power plays at 16.7%, and the penalty kill at 73.8. So not great, really, any way you slice it for the San Jose Sharks, who you look at what they have done this year. Got rid of Mikael Granlund, who was their third leading scorer. Macklin Celebrini has been a just exciting player to watch for this team. And one of the main reasons I think that that Sharks fans have a ton of hope for the future, albeit that future's still a ways away from becoming a reality for this San Jose Sharks team. But all you need to know right now is that the San Jose Sharks have lost 6 games in a row. Why does that sound familiar? Because that is the number of games that the New York Islanders had lost in a row. So with a big game coming up against Calgary on Friday, we have to be weary of a trap game. We got to be weary of a potential trap game here for the Minnesota Wild, because this would be a great opportunity for them to just really put all the pressure on the Flames to win tonight. The Flames play Anaheim, keep the pace up, keep it at 4, and then turn that into a win and knock them out, essentially, for the Flames on Friday night. Here are the numbers since March 29th for the San Jose Sharks in the 6 games that they have lost. Minnesota Wild, by the way, in that same span, they are 1-2-2. Sharks are 0-5-1, scoring 1.67 goals per game, giving up 4.67 goals per game, and their power plays at 12.5%. Can't score, cannot score. Absolutely cannot score this Sharks team. And just the number of players to key in on in that same span. Since March 29th, the Sharks' best player has been the guy that was a high pick of them previously, Will Smith, who has 3 goals in the last 6 games. He is one of 2 players that have multi-goals in that span, the other being Cam Lund. The only other goals scored in those 6 games, Tyler Toffoli, Alexander Wennerberg, Jack Thompson, Mark-Edward Vlasic, and Shakir Makamadullin. That's it. They have not scored a ton of goals in this span. And this is just a classic. Just take care of your business. Please. Just take care of your business and don't put yourself in a situation to where you have to try to sweat this out. Alexander Georgiev will be in net for the Sharks. He is 6-14-2 with San Jose with a 3.83 goals against average, an 874 save percentage, which is actually an improvement over his numbers at the start of the season for Colorado. His goals against average for Colorado was like 8.5. It's hideous. But the Wild have seen plenty of Georgiev over the years. He's capable, if he gets in a rhythm early, of making life difficult. And so here's what I would like to see tonight with Kirill Kaprizov and Joel Eriksson Ek back. Let's see if we can get 2 attacking lines, 1-2 punch that is making life miserable for the opponent. 1-2 punch of the Rossi line and the Ek line to make life tricky and to put a lot of pressure on the San Jose Sharks offensively. You get a couple goals early in this game, you can put them away. You can get them thinking about whatever game is next on their schedule. But if you let them hang around, that's where the trouble comes in. That's where the trouble lies. As far as that bottom 6 goes, well, let's just see if that new look bottom 6 can win their matchups here tonight. Now, one of those lines you would imagine is going to try to slow down Macklin Celebrini. Although Marcus Foligno on line number 2, you could go into a little bit of a defensive look for that line as well. In addition to scoring, I just feel like you can do both with that combination. So I would like to see that. Those are the 2 main things. I want to see Fleury have just another fun kind of acrobatic night as per usual. And I want to see what Kirill Kaprizov looks like here tonight, because this has gone on long enough that you would hope that by now he is close to 100%, but we're really not going to know. We're never going to know. We'll just be able to kind of see and base it off of how he has been previously to see how he looks and how he performs. But we'll have you covered with the postcast after the game tonight as well, so make sure to tune in then, and we'll see if the Wild can pick up a big win against the San Jose Sharks. Again, Calgary Flames are playing the Anaheim Ducks tonight as well, so all eyes on the Western Conference here tonight, as 2 pretty winnable games for 2 teams in the thick of the Wild Card 2 chase, and also not to be, not to lose sight of the fact that the Minnesota Wilds, with 1 fewer game played, if they win tonight and if St. Louis loses to Edmonton, they are tied in the wild card as far as points go. So there's a lot on the line here tonight, and just let these Sharks have it right off the drop, and don't turn this into a sweat game. That's all I'll say. But that'll do it for today's episode of Locked On Wild. Appreciate everybody tuning in as always. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe on YouTube so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. We got new episodes for you every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked On Podcast Network.